Should we eat bone broth?
Should we eat bone broth? Well, you know, there's always a new magical food, right? It's coconut oil and then it's bone broth. And if you wait by the end of this interview, there will be something else that's come out on Facebook or whatever everybody's supposed to do. The problem with bone broth is that people have made ridiculous promises about what it can do that there is no evidence to support. And so what this is all based on is a bunch of storytelling. And the storytelling goes something like this. I had a pain in my knee. I started making and eating bone broth, and it went away. And I had, you know, a spot on my shoulder or a headache, or, you know, my cousin had this, and my best friend's boyfriend's mother's next door neighbor's coworker had that. And everybody's just telling all kinds of stories, and it gins it all up. But there's no evidence to support this, not a single study. And when you point that out, then people just scream and holler. You know, that's always my gauge of how much evidence there is when I say something about it and all people can do is swear at me. That's usually a sign you don't have much science to support what you're saying, right? But people become very defensive about their bone broth because they're convinced it's good for them, but not so much.
How do you lower blood pressure without medicine?
That's actually easy to do for most people. All right, and so you have to do a few things right. The first thing is you have to eat a good diet, because if your blood is all sticky and thick and viscous because you eat a lot of fat, well, that isn't going to help, right? So eat a low-fat, high-fiber, plant-based diet. Make sure you're hydrated. 60% of your blood plasma is water. And if you're dehydrated, your plasma shrinks, and you get that thick, sticky, viscous blood. And the vessels have to shrink. You can't have empty spaces in your blood vessels. So high blood pressure is one of the byproducts of thick, sticky, viscous blood making its way through narrowed vessels. So make sure that you're well hydrated. That is, by the way, one of the reasons why so many heart attacks happen in the morning. It's the most dehydrated part of your day. And then the third thing is exercise and maintaining a healthy weight. And for most people, if they do those things, they won't require medication. And the result happens pretty quickly. The drop in blood pressure happens pretty quickly. In fact, this is one of those conditions where a physician needs to be on board to monitor your withdrawal from drugs before you drive your car into a tree or end up comatose on the bathroom floor.
Do you recommend mammograms of any type? What does the science say? What about thermography?
Okay, population screening for breast cancer. Completely ineffective. Does not lower the risk of dying of breast cancer. In fact, the risk that you will be harmed by regular mammography is significantly higher, 3 to 10 times higher, depending on what study you look at, than the chance that you will benefit. And the reason is that mammography is really good at picking up very tiny little masses, ductal carcinoma in situ, lobular carcinoma in situ. In situ means in one place, that are not really cancer. They're most of the time, almost 90% of the time, not going to develop into cancer. If anything, you could categorize them as risk factors for cancer with a whole lot of other risk factors by themselves, not going to cause cancer. Okay, so here's what happens that goes wrong. You have a bunch of women now, millions of them every year, who are told they have cancer. When you use the word cancer, the fact that it's in situ, everything else goes away. The only thing people hear is cancer. And the treatment that's recommended is ridiculous. We're going to do lumpectomy, increasingly mastectomy, radiation, follow-up treatment. This is ridiculous for a person who doesn't have cancer. And then the individual ends up in the survivor category. You know, you're a survivor from having not cancer, but now you can race for the cure, and your whole life gets tied up being identified as a cancer survivor. And as if that isn't bad enough, all of this makes it look like the cancer industry is succeeding because you've lowered the death rate from, it's a statistical anomaly. It looks like you're lowering the death rate from breast cancer, but that's really not what happened. You diagnosed a lot of women without breast cancer, you treated them as if they had it, and then they go into the survivor category. They'll all be there 5 years later anyway, all right? Now what mammography misses is, we call them interval tumors. They grow in between cancer screenings usually, and they're normally not caught. Every once in a while you catch one, but normally they're not the ones that are caught. And this is, you've probably had friends of your family that have been through this. The person says, I'm so shocked because in February I had a mammogram, it was clear. And then I noticed this lump in September and checked it out. Oh my gosh, it was stage 3 cancer. I can't believe it. So if early detection worked, you would have found that at its early stage in February. Okay, so you miss those cancers. That's why we haven't really seen a lowering of the death rate when you sort out all the people who didn't have cancer who were treated as if they have cancer. So again, women don't know that. I think it should be a requirement before they have a mammogram to realize, to say, I understand that the risk of harm is 3 to 10 times greater than the chance of benefit, but I want to have a mammogram anyway. I don't think many women would want to do it. You asked about thermography. Thermography is no better than mammography, not a single study showing that it lowers the risk of dying of breast cancer, and to a certain extent, it is a bigger problem than mammography because it catches even tinier abnormalities. And what you do is you turn people into worried, healthy people, all right? And this can lead to the same type of overdiagnosis and overtreatment. So women say to me, well, what am I supposed to do? Well, if we were just honest in the healthcare field as a whole, what you would tell women is we don't have any early detection programs that work. So this concept that you're going to eat, drink, and be merry, have a mammogram every year or two, catch it early, and take care of it is false. So you're going to have to take care of yourself. You're going to have to do all the right diet and lifestyle. You're going to have to make all of the right diet and lifestyle choices that will reduce your risk as much as possible of developing breast cancer. And it's a very discomforting thing to somebody who drank the medical Kool-Aid and thinks that screening is going to save them from their poor health and habits, but it's the truth, and it's what we should be telling women.